Welcome to this week's session. This is one of the sessions you're probably going to find that will come to you and you'll be able to use very effectively, and it helps tremendously put all the pieces in a order that make it much easier to deal with. Some people have argued that this should be the first session. Some people think it should be at the very end. The reality of it is, it is an important session. It's the one that people really need to see because it just incorporates so much information and is often the place where people find just by getting this nailed down, they see the most improvement. So again, as we always do, pay attention to listening to what we go through, understand the concepts, some of the things we've touched on in the past. We're going to bring it all together again here, and this will be something that you're going to work on. Fully understanding that this is not something that you're going to be able to adopt and get absolutely perfect right away. People deal with their schedules and their score systems throughout their entire careers. But the important part here is to give you some sort of an outline. So it's really a thing that I value highly, and I think you're going to find is going to be extremely helpful. So what we're going to do here is we're going to understand the basic fundamentals of just scheduling success. The whole idea of having a schedule is the difference between wanting to do things and get things done and actually doing them. In fact, a solid percentage of my clients, don't even come to me to help generate more business. What they want to come to me for is they want to do the same amount of business, but they want to do it in less time. And that's what I've always offered with my clients, is the fact that being in a position so that they're proactively dealing with things as opposed to reacting to events and things as they appear. So in an effort to help explain the concept of success scheduling, I just want to share with you a thought, and I want you to think back to your first day at school. I said, and that'll go a long way to helping you visualize what we're trying to do with the schedule. On the first day of school, your parents got you up, and you had to get up in far enough in advance so that you could get into your clothes and have your breakfast and get your things together, and either you were going to walk to school or you were going to walk to the bus stop and get on the bus, or you had to be in the building or at a certain location by a certain time. And so that's one of the first things you start realizing about school is there was a time that school started, and it was important to make sure that in advance of school, if school started at 8 o'clock, you needed to be at the building beforehand, and that required a series of things to be done. You had to get washed, you had to get dressed, you had to eat, you had to get your things together, and you sort of had to back out all of those things in order to make sure that you got there in time. And in fact, when you're at school, the school then goes through a position of explaining to you a variety of different things as far as, here's where you're going to need to be, here's when you're going to need to be there. On certain days of the week, we're going to do some things, and on other days of the week, we're going to do different things, and it's going to require that you be prepared differently. So at the very beginning of our socialization process when it comes to our education, a lot of emphasis is placed upon the school and the schedule. And much is dictated by getting the outcome that you need by a certain time frame. And that's really something that we've all learned to master. We've all learned that there are certain things that we need to do, and there are certain things that a certain time frame that they need to be done. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the referral triangle for a second, and remember that the referral triangle tells us that we have 3 basic areas of business, and we have to incorporate paying attention to those 3 areas. Well, as you know, and as I've said before, if it's not scheduled, it won't get done. If we don't create a focus of each day of the week and we don't put in one of these areas, then it's likely we're going to neglect one or more of these areas of business. And certainly we're going to be proactive in our intention but reactive in our reality. Everybody starts out by agreeing that these are things that we need to do. They don't get done because we end up, as soon as we walk through the door, we're responding to outside stimuli, and what we wanted to do doesn't necessarily come through. So what I try to put forward here is understanding focus of the day. And it's not that everything that you have to do that day is built around any particular one thing, but a portion of that time that you carve out must be focused on that particular area. Because if we're not going to carve out and if we're not going to designate time, then our life is going to be a series of reactive endeavors, and that's never a solution. So when I talk about this, and we talk about the referral triangle, and again, this is just an idea. You can do it however you want. Remember, the rules of the referral triangle says we have to cover all 3 areas of business. Each one of them must be represented by at least 1 day a week. We can mix and match them however we feel. But this needs to be a default schedule, because without having this written down and without knowing what our focus of the day is going to be, there are going to be times where things get busy or we're working on something else and we completely forget. And then the next week we go past it, and then the 3rd week we go past it, and before you know it, we are back into the position of dealing with 1 or 2 of the areas and neglecting the 3rd. And I've said to you before, this is almost like a 3-legged stool. Without all 3 legs, the stool doesn't work. You're going to fall over. So it's imperative that we make sure that we dedicate some time. Excuse me. So take a look at this, and again, you may have different reasons for working different things on different days. It's not important. I just put this out here as a sample. I'm not suggesting that this is the way you have to do it. I am suggesting that there are reasons where this may be a starting point as more beneficial. Example, Mondays tend to be a day where you get a lot of new inbound clients, a lot of new inbound referrals because people were busy out on the weekend looking at property. So a lot of days on Monday, you're going to have people who were pre-approved that have found contracts on properties, or you're going to find new people that were looking and your realtor has referred them to you. Monday's generally a pretty busy day when it comes to realtor referrals. Thursday should be a big day with realtors as well, because you're checking up and making sure that the people who have been pre-approved have appointments with their realtors to see property that week. So I've laid it out this way, but certainly you can have reasons, specific reasons for having different things on different days. If your best referring real estate office has their office sales meeting on Wednesdays, then clearly that may be a day that you want to make as a realtor day so that you can focus on that office. So the first pillar on what we're doing here is getting the plan, and I call it the 1-3-4 planning system. And it's really predicated on the fact that we assume people think of a workday as an 8-hour day. And so if we think in terms of an 8-hour day, what this does is it breaks it up 1 hour of planning, 3 communication blocks, and 4 one-hour actual activity blocks. If you know for a fact that you only have the ability to work a half a day because of an obligation someplace else, then these 1-3-4 still remain the same, just limit them to a half hour. If you only have 2 hours to work that day, then clearly you can put them into 15-minute blocks if necessary. The reality of this is it's adaptable. I just use an 8-hour day because people tend to think as a work day of 8 hours. I know a lot of us we have 8-hour days or 9-hour days or 10-hour days, and they're not necessarily continuous. Please understand this is for demonstration purposes. I put this out here. I fully agree that there may be days that you start earlier than what I'm going to share with you or work later than what I share with you. I have some clients who take the middle of the day off. They start their workday at 7 o'clock in the morning and they work till roughly 11 o'clock in the morning, and then they take off 3 or 4 hours and come back at 2 or 3 in the afternoon. If that works for you, if that is something that is a necessity for you for one reason or another, it's all fine, provided that you allow for all the things that are here. If we're effectively getting our work done, if we're effectively planning what we need to do and managing our communications, it's all good. So let's take this a step further and give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Now here's an idea that this particular thing, we're working from 9 to 6. Again, you can move this however you want. This gives you an idea of the first hour we come in, we're planning. The second hour, we're going to return phone calls and emails. The third hour, we're going to take some sort of action, whether it be working on a file or whether it be something prospecting. However, at 12 to 1, we're going to eat our lunch, come back to a communications block, a pair of back-to-back action blocks, a final communication block, and then a final hour of actionable activities. The reality here is this helps lay your day out. And again, for you, they don't necessarily have to be this way. The only things that are etched in stone are the fact that your planning or your scheduling hour needs to either be first or last. You can do it first thing in the morning and lay out your day for yourself, or you can do it last thing in the evening and have yourself set up for the next day's work. Doesn't matter to me which one you do that in, provided that you have everything ready to go so that when the time comes to work, to physically do the work, you're executing. Notice in here there's nothing that says I sit and wait for the phone to ring. A communications block means you are actively making outbound phone calls. You are actively engaged in replying or responding to emails. So look at these things and understand that blocking out the schedule and balancing it is one of the most important things you can do. So again, I want you to look at this. I want you to take it all in and understand that, here's what we're going to do, and here's how we're going to do it. So first we're going to talk about the communication blocks, because generally this is where people have the biggest challenge. And quite simply, you put your communication blocks into your system, and you're supposed to be returning phone calls, answering emails. You can be writing your thank you notes, any other form of communications, whether you're going to be responding to stuff on Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn. All these things fall into a time where you're communicating. This is not a time to have a consultation. If you're going to schedule a consultation, even if it's over the phone, then that'll fall into one of your action blocks. Doing a consultation or an application or whatever comes down to an actionable activity. It's not something that gets put into a communication block. Although, if you've made all your communications, if you responded to all your emails and returned all your phone calls, and there's nothing else to do, then clearly you have to be available for the phone, because you have your message that says you'll be returning phone calls during this hour. So somebody who was going to be calling in at that time expecting you to be available would have to be either have that phone call answered when they call in or returned before that time frame was over. Other than that, there's no reason for you to be doing anything other than communicating, either by phone or by mail or by email. In a communications block, that's when you do it. This is the time to contact and schedule consultations, okay? Because consultations, whether they be for pre-approval or sharing loan options or explaining terms, whatever the case may be, Consultations are an actionable activity, and they should be scheduled as such. The good reason of having this schedule and having a default schedule is it makes it easy for you to dictate when you're going to have these appointments. If you have a default schedule and you know every day you have an action block between 2 and 3, 3 and 4, or 5 and 6, it makes it very easy for you if you're speaking to somebody today, when you're speaking to them saying, hey, I have time tomorrow between 2 and 3, 3 and 4, and 5 and 6 for that consultation, which one of those times works best for you. It makes it simple to go in there without having to rearrange your life to tell people when you're prepared to do that work. Your action blocks, again, very simple. Prospecting. What are you doing to generate loans? Remember what we said was we're supposed to be prospecting 2 hours a day. So our prospecting should fill a minimum of 2 of the 4 actionable activity blocks. The other things that we do in there obviously are taking applications, doing consultations, and preparing files for submission, along with other associated activities. You work in those work blocks. There's not a single thing that you do that should be taking you more than an hour. If it takes you longer than an hour to do a consultation or to take a loan application or prepare your file for submission, then there is an issue. There, you need to reevaluate how you're doing things, because it doesn't take more than an hour to do any one of those things. And if it's taking you longer to do that, then we really need to focus on why is that taking longer, and that is something that we can work on privately if necessary. Sometimes people's applications take an incredibly long time because they allow them to. They don't know that they haven't made an appointment. When you tell that client that we'll take your application between 3 and 4, that's what they're expecting. They're expecting you to be ready at 3, and they're expecting you to be done by 4, because that's how they've planned their day. And it's up to you to make sure that not only are you prepared, but they're prepared, so that everything that needs to get done in that time can be done in that time. So creating these action blocks and understanding what we're supposed to be doing and what fits in that time frame, and more importantly, what doesn't fit in that time frame, becomes something you really need to focus on. So I'm going to give you an idea of some sample realtor actionable activities. Okay? Preparing your meaningful message of the day. In other words, if you're going to go out and speak to realtors that day, and we're going to talk about, for instance, last week I issued the blog post on the Forever Home strategy. So if you decide that was going to be the message for the day, that what you would do is you'd be printing out however many copies of that you needed, putting them into envelopes, writing the realtor's name on them, so that you can go out there and you can share that information with that realtor or realtor referral partner. That would be an actual activity, preparing that message of the day for the people that you're going to go visit. Because again, the rules are making sure that if we ever go to visit somebody, not that we necessarily need an appointment to go do it, because we all understand most of the time realtors will either be late for an appointment or they won't be there at all because they'll cancel. I don't want that to prevent you from going to their office, even if they work from home or their car, and dropping off something for somebody. And the reason I say that is you never know who's going to be in that office. There may be another referral partner that you can get in front of. There may be a client that you may be able to get in front of just because you're there. There are numerous times in my career that I walked into an office and ended up with a deal that I wouldn't have gotten other than the fact that I happened to be in the right place at the right time. So the other thing you can do is again, if we're on Monday, and let's say Monday's that realtor day, and we're dealing with a large number of people who have just called us because they want to get pre-approved, or they have found a property and they want to go and fill out their application. It's still imperative that at least at that point that we call the realtor and make the phone call to collect the new. Well, a new is the word I use, is a new contact from a realtor since you last spoke to them. Simply making that phone call and calling that realtor, and understand, even if you were visiting 10 or 15 realtors that day, or 10 or 15 realtors were on your list, it's a 30-second to 3-minute phone call. It will take you anywhere between 10 minutes and 45 minutes to call 15 realtors and leave the following message. Hi, this is Mike White. I just wanted to call and check in with you, see how things were going. I wanted to see if you met anybody over the weekend that I needed to speak to. If you have, please just give me a call back or shoot me an email with the contact information, and I'll be happy to reach out to your clients. Boom, we're done. The other thing to do is call each new borrower or each new listing that you do get and follow up whatever the procedure is or the protocol that you have established for borrowers or listings. In other words, that realtor may have a new borrower, that realtor may have a new listing, they give it to you. You need to follow your protocol. Exactly what am I going to do when I have this information? You prepare a welcome package for each new listing. In other words, your realtor gives you a new listing. You fill out the welcome package, whatever that is. Could be just a simple letter that says, hi, my name is Mike White, and I am applying for the job of being your next loan officer. Some people have packages that supply all kinds of information. They're very beautifully done, and they have all sorts of things about the company and loan products and all kinds of other things. It doesn't matter what you have. It's a matter that you have and send something. Another idea of an actual activity would be working and preparing the Help Us Pick Your New Neighbor material. If you have a realtor that has a listing and they have agreed to work with you on doing Help Us Pick Your New Neighbor, that would be the time that you could do that in your actual activity block. If you don't have one of those to do, you could be identifying new realtors or realtor partners to target. You could be approaching new realtor targets and sharing your vision about how you think the relationship should work. You could be preparing home finance guides to either resupply current listings. You could be preparing audio tours for new listings. You could be preparing information for trade-up and trade-down properties for each of their current listings. You could be working on preparing open house invitations for the neighbor-only open house in the neighborhood. You could be scheduling follow-up calls so that you're making sure that you're in front of all the listings and trying to get that appointment to do their pre-approval. You could be contacting new borrowers so that you could do your new client intake or interview. And certainly you can be following up with current clients to see if they saw property over that particular weekend. Again, many more of these things we're going to cover when it comes to the realtor next week and the following week when we do our 2 sessions on the realtor relationship. I'm just trying to give you an idea of a series of proactive things that we can be doing so that we're not sitting around thinking about what I'm supposed to do today, but we're actually doing the things that we talked about doing today, or that we should be on our schedule to do today. So now let's take a look at a real life view. And when I say, when we write down what it is that we've done, I have always found, and a lot of my clients have always found, that when we do our work, we create our plan. And so I'm going to give you a day in the life so that you can look at this and you can say, okay, I see how this works. So based on our original default schedule, 9 and 10 was the planning hour. So what's my task list for that planning hour? Well, I'm going to schedule the time blocks for each of today's specific needs. I'm going to listen to all my voicemail and schedule the return calls. I'm going to review all of my email and reply or schedule a reply to those emails. I'm going to insert the actionable activity blocks, all the required tasks that I'm going to execute that day. And then what I'm going to do is generate a priority list of optional tasks, which means if I don't have phone calls to make, or I run ahead of schedule, or if somebody cancels an appointment, I already have a running list of things that I can do that day. Could be as simple as calling 10 people in your database and saying hello. It could be a birthday list. It could be sharing an opportunity for your featured merchant of the month. Could be almost anything. The reality of it is having that prepared before you engage keeps you proactive versus reactive, and that changes you from being busy and broke, okay, to productive and profitable. And so we use that planning hour to lay out the rest of the day. And we take a look, communication block. So here are the calls that I need to make. I'm calling Jones. Here's the phone number. This is why I'm calling them. I'm calling Smith regarding an intake. Okay, I've got to schedule an interview. I'm calling Brown. There's their phone number. It was a quick issue about title insurance. I'm calling Roberts. There's their phone number. They found a property. We're going to get some information to them, or we're going to get some information from them so we can prepare information from them or schedule an appointment. I'm going to return a phone call to Mr. Gordon, and here's his phone number. He's the suspect. He came as a referral from someone to me, and so what I'm doing is I'm calling them. It's a new suspect, so I treat that as a new suspect call. Same thing with Marks. I'm speaking to these people for the first time, and we're looking to schedule an appointment. And then I have an outbound call to Croswell Century 21. There's a new agent there. That's a prospect that I wanted to touch base with. There's my communications block. These are the things that need to be done. Clearly, if they get all done in the time frame, we're good. If we get done early, we go to the priority list of optional tasks. If we run late and we didn't get them all done, we drop whatever items that didn't get done in this time and move them to the next call block unless this person specifically asked to be talked to in that time frame, in which case we make the appropriate phone call and ask for an appointment. Again, 30 seconds to 3 minutes. From 11 to 12, we're having our, an action block. And what am I going to do? I'm going to visit a RE/MAX office. I'm going to talk to the people and collect whatever new people that they've met. I'm going to visit a Century 21 and a Coldwell Banker and do the same thing. I'll see here by this, I have a lunch appointment. Here's where I'm going to have lunch, and I'm having it with a realtor by the name of Jackson. Clearly, we're heading down a path. From 1 to 2, my second communications block, I'm going to listen to my voicemail and return or schedule to return calls. I'm going to read and reply or schedule to reply to emails that are in there. I have 2 phone calls. These are people that had asked to have their phone call returned in these times. So here are the 2 people that I have to call. One's a new client, and one wants to schedule a closing. From 2 to 3, I have a new application. So I have an application settled. This is the person. There's their contact phone number. 3 to 4, I have an application. I have an action block. And I'm preparing the new welcome kits. I'm preparing home finance guides. I'm contacting the new borrowers and scheduling appointments. And I'm preparing some Help Us Pick Your New Neighbor cards from people we're doing Help You Pick Your New Neighbor for. 4 to 5, our third communications block, same thing. From 5 to 6, I have another application. And then I clear my desk, put my files away, and any notes or plans that I need to take for tomorrow. Again, this gives you some idea that proactively taking care of these things in advance keeps you from getting sidetracked, and it fits the work into the time. So what we have to think about is creating a pattern. And we've talked about this, what is the focus of each and every day? What are the hours that I'm planning on working? What are the actionable activities associated with this particular focus? What are my pre-scheduled events or obligations? In other words, do I have things that I have already scheduled in to happen at certain times? And then clearly inserting the work into the schedule. I know this is not easy to do. I know this takes a while to get used to. But trust me when I say you have to learn how to make the attempt. Because the more of your life that you can do on purpose, the more of the work that you can do focused and following a plan, the better your results are going to be, the more work you're going to get done, the better the quality of that work is going to be, and it will take you less time. So we've taken a look at the default schedule, and we've taken a look at how that gets played in, and I've shared with you the 1, 3, 4, and I've done that so that you can start looking at how do I move my schedule and how do I get my work life into that schedule. And so the next part is does that work that you're doing, is it generating the result that you need? And clearly, that's where keeping score comes into play. You know, we remember, even as a little kid, we play games and people keep score. You know, winning and losing, all a big deal, okay? It becomes very important. In fact, some of the challenges I think that we have in the country right now, and some of the challenges that we have with professionals right now, is the fact that along the way, we've taken away the importance of winning and losing. And we adopted this very bad trend, at least in my opinion, of participation trophies. And just by showing up, you win. Well, we all know that now that you have grown up and we get into the real world, the difference between success and failure is minimal when it comes to the effort that you put forward. And it's huge based upon the outcome that you get. And the reason is because, again, you can be proactive or you can be reactive, and we have to keep score. So part of keeping score is do I know what I'm trying to do? So the question becomes, do I have a written plan on how a client goes from suspect to closed client? Do I know that a suspect plus a tri-merge credit report and a review of certain documentation equals a prospect? Do I know that once reviewing that information with that prospect, agreeing to terms and collecting the balance of any missing documentation generates an application? Do we know those steps? Do we have them written down? And do we have them measured? And the answer is, if we don't, we need to. Because the next question comes up with, do I have a written plan of action so that I can obtain and secure the referral partners that I need for my business practice? In other words, either I'm generating business all on my own, or I'm going to have people who help me generate business. In a perfect world, we have both. So what's the plan to go out there and get those people? What do I do? What actions and activities do I take? And when do I do them so that I can find those people? Have I created the book of business which provides the details in writing for each process and for each referral partner and their clients? Do I have written proof of this is what I do and this is how I do it and why? Do I have a written plan of action for each client as it contacts me so that I can ensure that I return proper attention to them? Because again, if I don't have a system that says this is when I answer my phone calls, this is what we do when we speak, this is how we go forward. If I don't have that written down, then we're creating a new system every time I get a new client or a new referral partner. And you can't function that way. Well, you can if you only deal with one referral and one referral partner or one person at a time. But if you're going to be trying to generate 5 to 7 closed loans a month, you're going to need one system on how you do things, and the rest of the world is going to have to work within that system, because it's much more important that your system is designed to work perfectly for you than it is you trying to figure out how to meet the needs of the other person. The person is coming to you to be the expert. The person is coming to you because you're supposed to know how this gets done. And that becomes the reason that they're paying you. And if you don't have a plan to make sure that that happens, then I don't understand why they would pay you in the first place. And last but not least, do I have a written plan of action that details how I manage a closed client relationship and provides them ongoing value while we're securing referrals. Because once I've closed that loan, it is much more beneficial to keep in touch and provide value to that person to gain their future business as well as future referrals from them than it is to find and secure a new relationship all on my own. So if you're going to keep score, these are all the things that matter. These are things that you need to keep track of. So we need to create a personal scoring system, okay? We've talked about before our income goal. We know what our average income is per loan, and we know how many applications we need to take. We certainly know how many prospects we need to get in front of so that you can gain an application. We've been through how many suspects it takes to generate that prospect. And we also should know what actions we take that lead to generating that suspect. In other words, we need to know the math because every day we need to keep score. And it cannot be just about the closed loan because we are not going to close a loan every day. And there needs to be a way of being successful that doesn't boil down to the only time you're successful is when a loan closes. So here is a prototype that you can use so that you can keep score daily that fits in with the information that I started earlier to talk about. It creates this scoreboard, and it's called the 10-3-1. And quite simply put, it's 10 client or referral partner calls, actually speaking to people. 3 moves, which is the action of moving a suspect to prospect, or a prospect to applicant, or applicant to closed client, or closed client back to prospect again. Anytime you move somebody from one place to another, it's called a move. And then there is the last one, which is called referral partner meetings or appointments. Did we see and speak to a referral partner that particular day to discuss our business relationship and how we can promote them and they can promote us? Now again, this is in a perfect world, all 3 of those items would be dealt with in any particular day. We know this is not a perfect world. Some days you don't control if anybody moves, and some days you can't set up a realtor partner meeting or appointment. Some days all you have is speaking to people. So in a day where you're not having the opportunity to do anything else, if you spoke to 30 people live and none of them agreed to allow you to pull credit, you could give yourselves an A for the day. If you spoke to 10 people and 3 of those, and 3 of those people decided to move, that would be wonderful. If 4 of them decided to move, that would be nice. 6 of them decided to move into the process, that would be great. And then you have your 1 referral partner meeting or appointment. Sometimes you can't do that. But sometimes you'll have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 realtor appointments or other referral partner appointments in a day. Well, the good news is that all counts towards your A. If you had 3 referral partner meetings or appointments that day, and even if you didn't speak to a new client or even if you didn't move anybody, those 3 meetings would help you get your A. You can use any one of these items to help offset any one of the other items. It's a very flexible scoring system because certain days offer certain opportunities to generate different types of results. Keeping in mind this is our goal. These are minimums. how hard would it be to make sure that you got your A every day? Understanding fully that your opportunities divided by the outcomes equal what your achievement is. If you're not, you can create all the opportunities in the world. If loans don't close, it doesn't do you any good. So it becomes a percentage. If you can get your outcomes as a higher percentage of your opportunities, you have a greater sense of achievement. So the point is you have to know it's not just about opportunities. It's not just about outcomes. It's a combination of both. And you need to track these numbers. You need to pay attention to these numbers because these become valuable. If you're getting a bunch of opportunities but you're not closing a lot of loans, you need help. There are some things that we're going to be doing to help you improve your conversion rate. Maybe, it's somebody who sits there across from bankruptcy court with a sign saying, I can get anybody a loan, shouldn't be shocked that they pull a ton of credit reports for people who can't close loans. You may want to rethink that outcome. But the person who sits there trying to land one person and gets a great referral partner and doesn't do anything else and just lives and dies by that one referral partner's business doesn't have a sustainable plan either. We have to look at all things. Referral partner scoring. You must source each and every new suspect. And you should be referring every referral partner to make sure that you're getting what you thought. If each person that you're expecting to send you business, if you're not monitoring that until the end of the year, you may think somebody's going to send you 12 referrals in a year, and then at the end of the year you look up and they only sent you 3. Well, there's no way of fixing that. So if once a month you were checking your referral partner list, people that in the beginning of the year in your business plan, you said, here are the people that I expect to refer me business, and here are the people that I've received from them, and we were checking that, you could tell right away whether that person was on schedule, behind schedule, or ahead of schedule to meet that goal. If you're behind schedule in a relationship, you'd better address it. You'd better find out why you're not getting referrals from the people or why you're not getting the number that you thought you were going to get. Waiting to the end of the year to be disappointed that you didn't get what you thought you were going to, not really the way that you want to work things. You can't fix it at that point. Do not wait till the end of time. Monitor it over time. The other thing you need to do is track the results. And I'll give you a very simple situation. You could have a referral partner number 1 that sends you 20 to 30 people a month, and you review those 20 to 30 people, and you manage to close 5 or 6 deals a month. That'd be pretty good. You'd be happy with that. But on the other hand, you have another referral partner who sends you 5 or 6 people a month, and you close 4 or 5 loans every month from those 5 or 6 people. Realtor number 2, or referral partner number 2, is a better referral partner. Why? Because you're spending time talking to 5 or 6 people to close 90% of them, as opposed to speaking to 30 people to close 5 of them. You want to have both of those, but don't misinterpret the fact that the person who sends you 20 or 30 prospects a month is a better producer for you than the person who's only sending you the 5 or 6. You do want them both, but you don't want to be misled, because the person who's actually sending you better business is partner number 2. Follow up, follow up, follow up. Everything you do needs to include the plan by which you're going to follow up. You need to have clearly, and you need to clearly express to your people how it is you do what you do and how it is you're going to follow up with them. Nothing is more detrimental to a mortgage professional than the appearance that you don't follow up with a lead. We've talked about this a little bit, and I'll talk about it again so that we're very clear on follow-up. If you get somebody that refers you somebody, then you have an obligation to follow up with that lead. And I've suggested to you in the past that you call them 3 times in 3 days. If you don't have a phone number and you can only email, then you email them 3 times in 3 days. But at the end of that 3rd phone call or the end of that 3rd email, you need to be recalling that referral partner on the phone or sending them an email saying, hey, I appreciate the referral you gave me with the Joneses. I've called them 3 times in 3 days. Or I have emailed them 3 days in a row. I have not heard back from them. How would you like me to proceed? That is critical. Because what will happen more times than not, you'll make those phone calls or you'll send those emails. You won't say a word to your referral partner. Then that client meets with the referral partner, and that referral partner asks, hey, how did you make out with Mike White? And they'll say, I don't know. I never heard from him. He never called me. And you look like the idiot. You can't have that happen. So follow up, follow up, follow up. Part of what your scheduling prowess needs to be is that you never end a conversation without scheduling what you're going to do next. It must be in writing. You must get it scheduled, or you don't have a way to prevent people falling through the cracks. So remember, what are my pillars of business and my areas of focus? What are the actions or the activities that generate those new suspects or generate new referral partners for my business? What can the client or the referral partner expect from me? When do I schedule the activities that generate my business or that generate my referral partners? How do I quantify my actions each and every day to make sure that I'm doing what I need to do so that I'm generating the result that I need to generate? And of course, how do I quantify my referral relationships? If you're not listing everybody that you think is sending you business or is supposed to be sending you business, and you don't fill it out as to how many referrals that you've received and how they have tracked, you may be really off into the reality of what your business actually looks like. Some are better than others. They just don't always appear that way on the surface. Sometimes you have to dig down a little bit. So this becomes incredibly important. Know what it is that you're doing. Know the specific steps. Make absolutely crystal clear that you've got a schedule that allows for you to do these things. If you're going to check your referrals or check your realtor referrals or you're going to follow up with clients, needs to be in your schedule. If the 3rd Wednesday of the month is when you're going to check for your referral partners to make sure that they're on path according to your business plan, so be it. Whenever it is that you're supposed to be doing these things, it needs to be scheduled. Because I'm telling you, if it's not scheduled, it won't happen. Where do you stand? You need to know how you rank, especially in your own company. Who are the other people who are using the same tools that you're using, and how are they doing versus how you're doing? And for purposes of this, I would say don't look at dollar amounts, look at units. Units is the great equalizer, not dollars, because we can't control what market happens to sell or what prices are in our market. Are you effectively getting in front of people, and are you closing loans? The other things we talked about, and we've done what we have talked in the past, is how does your company compare to others? In other words, are you tracking how your company stacks up against the competition in your marketplace? Are you reviewing your market share reports? Are you looking at who's doing the other business? What's the total amount of business that's being done? And if you were going to reach your goals, what would the market share be? You need to know your personal market share. You need to know your company's market share. Because it is important that you know if you can get to the numbers you need to get to. Because if you're already getting a pretty good market share and you're not closing the number of units that you need to, it may be impossible for you to stay in that same market working with those same people and get better results. The other thing you need to be aware of is how do you stand by price and fees compared to the others in your market. And I'm not saying for a second that you have to have the best rate or the best fee schedule. What I'm saying is you need to know where you stand. If somebody traditionally offers cheaper rates than you and never closes a loan, there's a reason for that. If you're traditionally less expensive or lower priced in your fees than your competition, and you're doing as good or a better a job, then that becomes something that you can compare. But you need to know where you stand. And certainly you need to track and source every lead. And you need to quantify each investment. Well, what do I mean by that? Pay attention when you're spending money on anything, whether you're buying leads or taking an ad or doing any of those things. Those investments, doing a mailing, printing out flyers, whatever, understand what your investment is. And make sure that when leads come to you, you're asking the question, how did you come to call me? Was it because of a specific marketing plan, a specific event you were at, a specific referral partner? Asking the words, how did you come to call me, is very important. You need to know where you stand. You need to know what is possible, and you need to keep score. Homework this week, and again, you're going to find that this is not going to be just homework. Hopefully this is a lifestyle change, and it's something that you'll do it well into the future. If you haven't already done so, you need to create a focus of your prospecting for each workday. What's my focus on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? Does it meet the requirements of the referral triangle? You need to build your 1-3-4 time schedule every day so that you can start scheduling these things and start being more proactive versus reactive. You need to create your actionable activities list for each action, each area, each thing that you're going to do. When I say I'm working realtors, what does that mean? I shared with you in the beginning some of the things on a realtor list. Understand now that as we go forward, especially the next 2 weeks and beyond, we're going to be talking about the things that you can do to work with those referral partners. I don't expect for you to have 100% of everything you're going to need today. Know full well that the next 2 weeks we're going to work on realtors. We're going to be working on other professionals and things as well, so that you have the ability to select from a number of different tasks. That way you can create those actionable activity lists, and you can be proactive versus reactive. You need to do the work so that you can answer yes to the 5 questions on page 8 of these notes. If you don't have a yes answer to these questions, then you need to be in a position that these things are done. It's the basis for your business model. On page 9 of the handout, there are going to be some questions. Again, you're going to have to make sure that you've answered those. I want you to create that list of referral partners so you can track their referrals. All of you should be able to access something as simple as a spreadsheet and list all your referral partners. It's very simple when they come to you. Put them on the spreadsheet, and then just create a column. Suspect, prospect, applicant, closed client. Every time that person moves from one to the other, you can just check the box. You can look very easy and say, hey, I can look at each one of my referral partners. They give them their own section. Here's who they gave me. Here's how they move through the system. It gives me a way of looking at this and tracking the results. And clearly I want you to go at the very end and answer the questions on page 13, because at the end of the day, we need to go through this work. We need to know what we're doing and making sure that we have this. If anything else, this work here is vitally important to you. It's the difference between how much of your time you're going to spend proactively being productive or how much of your time you're going to be reactively busy. And again, if you need help, you just need to ask. You get a question, you have a challenge, email me, and we will do what we can to help you. Because this is, like everything else in here, it's not here for no reason. The reason that we have this out here, the reason that we do these things is so you have the opportunity to improve not only the quality of your business, but the quality of your life. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate you making the call. And I appreciate the effort that you're putting into doing these things. And I look forward to moving forward together. Have yourselves a great week. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.